Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic / Non-Classic. This episode number 2583, 84, and double number 2478. First up, we're discussing issues of Ghost Rider Volume 3, 32 to 39, and the first annual. First of two ever released. Now, I'm skipping 40 because I was planning to do 40. I realized, oh crap, I've done 40 already with Midnight Massacre. So don't worry about 40. And I'll talk about 41 to 43 next time. Though after that particular issues, I'm going to basically skip over the next three issues because those next three issues after the cross I'll talk about next time, talk about Ghost Rider, is basically like Siege Darkness. So basically, Raft missing at the next cross, which I'll mention when I finish here. It will be basically on to the next set of issues afterwards. At the first, discussing the second annual of the series. 32 is simply put, basically Dan Ketch remerging with Ghost Rider. That's it. Now, the main bad guys of these issues is a group known as the Firm. The first number 25, they return for these issues, and they pretty much are eliminated by issue 37. Of course, Dan Ketch also deals with taking on Scarecrow, Marvel Scarecrow, not DC Scarecrow, Marvel Scarecrow. He also takes on Madcap, who last appeared in the Impossible Man Summer Special. Yes, seriously. And, he also teams up with Daredevil to take on a demon known as Succubus, who works for Nightmare. And like Centaurus is kind of like a background villain for these issues. And that's pretty much it. Kind of, anyways. 39. He has another fight with Vengeance, which that leads into issues of the Spirit's Vengeance book, which I've discussed already. So, yeah, main issues are really good. Nothing bad here per se. Still really interesting. But yeah. Next up, basically, it's on to the first ever annual. Now, Howard Mankey does write this annual. The first two stories, the third story is by Joe Cabral. I believe this was the... Excuse me. Now, Howard Mankey, for Ghost Rider, this would sadly be the only annual he ever write for the series, because the very next annual is by somebody else. Sadly. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be discussing... There's a couple things related to Ghost Rider. There's like one I'm discussing after this. I'll discuss in the future. Don't worry about that. Interesting. Yeah. So, it's all about this new character named Night Terror, which basically, the first story is his debut. The second story is basically a spotlight story for him. And then, like, where he takes on this one-shot character. And then you have Dan Ketch in the third story taking a creature of rigor mortis. And that's it. Sadly put, in the case of Night Terror, he would next pop up in Blade Vampire Hunter. And he was never seen again after that. Nope, never was. Yep. Great issues. Give the issues roughly a 9 out of 10. And you'll give that 8.5. Our next step is quite interesting, because we have a brand new book. Now, this book replaced, I believe it was Wear It by Night, because I had decided that this series replaced Wear It by Night. It's one of my favorite characters, and it's a character that Disney sued Marvel for, because his beak looks way too similar to Donald Duck. Howard the Duck. Yes, Howard the Duck. I am not kidding about this. Steve Gerber created this character to be what he is, and Marvel got sued by Disney because his beak looked way too similar to Donald Duck. They wanted him to alter the beak. The beak was altered years later, and Steve Gerber's like, no, I'm not going to alter the freaking beak. It's fine. Leave it alone. They're like, you gotta alter it, or we're sue you over this freaking beak. Yes, seriously. This was a very petty reason I have heard. Now, that's what I heard. I'm like, Disney. This was Disney in the 70s. Was Disney so petty in the 70s? They had to sue Marvel Comics over a character's beak. Who look way too similar to Donald Duck's. It's a duck beak. And that is not a joke. That is seriously the reason why Disney did this. And of course, this is the same company who later bought Marvel Comics in 2009. Yes. Okay, this is the Howard the Duck, the Complete Collection, Volume 1. This collects his first two appearances from... Well, it's basically... He appeared in like 3 comic books part of this. Fear, number 19, which was also Man-Thing's last story appeared in. Man-Thing number 1, and you're going to laugh at this, because I heard years later, people thought this was so funny to basically make this funny. Giant-sized Man-Thing. Me. Number 4 and 5. Though these are backup stories, they appear in there. Most of the put in Fear number 19, it's... Well, Howard Duck show up during conversation between Man-Thing and some warrior and just shoves him aside, and that's basically his debut. You have this loudmouth character from Duck World. And the story continued in Man-Thing number 1, and also continued in the 2 Giant-Sized Man-Thing, and then finally he got his own solo title. Which, by the way, the book also collects his first and, this might shock you, his only ever annual he ever came out with. You're like, really? Howard the Duck had an annual? He only produced 1? Yeah, and here's something you might find interesting about these issues for this volume. You're thinking, 1 to 16, that's about the same, that's basically combined the same number of issues Chip Zdarsky had for his run for the book. Over 2 volumes. That's indeed true. Here's what also might shock you. Did you know this volume, all the volumes for Howard the Duck, this is the longest volume at 33 issues? Except that the series was supposed to have 33 issues, they ended at 30 to basically do a black and white book just so we can have Beverly appear butt naked. Yes, Beverly searched, I think she brought in issue 1 of Howard the Duck, which also, here's the thing, they had Spider-Man appear as a recurring character in this book. Yes, Spider-Man. There's also Marvel Treasures number 12. All the issue is Howard the Duck meeting Defenders. For 1 issue. Yep. And mostly put Steve Gilroy everything in here with Val Mordick, Frank Berner, John Buscema, Gene Colan. Yes, Gene Colan did artwork for Howard the Duck. Sal Buscema, and many more. And so I'm thinking, Gene Colan, the artist behind Tomb of Dracula, that's amazing artwork for Batman. He did Howard the Duck. Yes, he also did Daredevil. And it seems so shocking. Like, a lot of the stuff in the main book itself is, like, very self-contained. Aside from Spider-Man, there's, like, nobody outside the Marvel Universe appears in the book. Though the book itself does debut a hilariously villain. Yeah, I believe the first issue does have debut of Beverly. I think it was. Yes, Beverly Schwartzman makes her debut in the very first issue. Yeah, and Beverly is a character who constantly appears with Howard the Duck for years, for decades. And then when Zdarsky wrote the book, he basically retired the character. I am not kidding. He retired her by having become a veterinarian. And a lot of time when she appeared in the book, she's basically written to be Howard's best friend. And at one point in the book, okay, so you have other people who are like, Trump, man. You're like, what? Yes, this seriously was a villain for Howard the Duck who appeared in issue 2 and 11. He popped up like 3 more times after this, and that sadly was it. No, seriously. Yeah. This space villain. In issue 3, he basically thinks he's the master quack fu to take on Count Munchio. Which is like, what? Yes, seriously. Issue 4, he, has this debut character named the Winky Man. A character who was a reoccurring character in this book, who appeared a few times in these issues here, appears in the annual, appears a lot after this. Oh, don't worry, we're discussing more after this one, because it gets weirder. Oh my gosh. And then we have a villain named the Kidney Lady. Yes, seriously, there is a character known as the Kidney Lady. Made her debut in issue 2, and appeared in issue 5, 11, 12, and 16, and appeared a handful more times after this. You also have the Goat. Yes, a frickin' wrestler who's known as the Goat. Yeah, so we have Howard Luck participating in wrestling in issue 5. In issue 6, he takes on a villain named the Gingerbread Man. Brought to life by Patsy Dragonworth, a little girl who appears in 2 issues. She sadly dies in the very next issue. And Gingerbread Man returns to issue 11. And some of you are like, what the heck? Yes, Howard Luck is weird. Yeah, we're talking March Treasures in issue 8. Okay, so issue 8, he does something completely unexpected for Howard the Duck. He runs for president as a candidate for the all-night party. And it lasts for a little while, and then he's dropped from the race because of a photo of him and Beverly in a bathtub. And you're like, what? Yes, seriously. That is a thing that happens in this book. Yeah. There's also a villain named the Bellhop. Yes, seriously. A bellhop is a bad guy in this book. And you're like, what in the world is this book? Yes. It is hilariously, it's weird, but I enjoy it. Correspondent appears once again in issue number 10 as a hallucination. Issue 11 debuts a character, leads to the debut of a character who appears in the next issue. We have Wanda Wessler, who is a recurring character in this book. It's like, okay, appears in this volume, next volume, and that's Leslie Seifer. Kidney Lady returns to his one last appearance here. And then we have Nurse Barbara. Yes, where Howard's basically put in a mental hospital for an issue. Nurse Barbara herself appears for 3 issues, which is 12 to 14, and then it pops up issue for the next volume, and that was it. Yeah, there was also one issue 14, 13 and 14, get this is what happens to him. He gets into contact with Damien Hellstrom, who takes control of his powers. Oh, by the way, he meets the Defenders. He briefly becomes briefly a Sorcerer Supreme for an issue, yes. And then the annual, yes, the series 1 and only annual is Take on Raxon. Okay. Issue 15 is a debut of Dr. Bong. And you're like, are you mental, dude? Dr. Bong? Yes, there is a villain named Dr. Bong. Except, here's the thing. He's more associated with frickin' Deadpool than he was with Howard the Duck. Because for some reason, whoever writes Deadpool likes including him as a recurring villain for him. And this is the villain that wraps this book, is Dr. frickin' Bong. As a matter of fact, he appears throughout a good majority of this book before the book ends. And it's so hilarious. You're like, what? Dr. Bong? And so I'm like, is this a sex reference or something? No, he's basically a guy who's got a bell head for a mask. I'm not making this up. Read a damn book. It is by far one of the most hilarious things I have ever seen. Okay, you want proof of this? Also, at one point in the book, he runs the frickin' Kiss. I'm gonna show you basically Dr. Bong to show I'm not kidding about him. Yeah. Okay, this is Dr. Bong. And I love the fact that the title of the book is The Mysterious Island of Dr. Bong, which is a title nod to The Mysterious Island of Dr. Monroe. Yeah, I think it's a Vernon Jules Verne story. Yes, this whole story is a nod to that. And the whole thing with Dr. Bong is he wanted to make Beverly his wife. That's his thing. He wants to make Beverly his wife. Yeah, but this book is absolutely amazing. I love it. And I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 because of how awesome and weird it is at the same time. I'm like, it's Howard the Duck. What can you expect from him? And by the way, it was one point in the book he's being put in jail. So he's asked to take off all of his clothes. His coat, his shirt, and they said all of his clothes. And he was down just his hat. And then he touched like, oh, it's skin. Because they thought Howard was basically a kid in a suit. Yes, seriously. That is how Steve Gerber wrote this freaking book. Okay, so, yeah, that's going to be pretty much that particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Next up, another Comic Corner, where it's Moon Knight and Luke Cage. Okay, next video. Bye.